Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Ollie. I'm a doctor living and working in the UK NHS, currently working in neurosurgery. And it's been a while. There's been a lot going on. I have been trying to keep everyone abreast and up to date of what's been going on, mainly via my social media channels. But basically the reason why I've been AWOL for so long is I've been applying for specialty training, what's known as residency in some countries around the world, but basically applying for a post to become a registrar or a junior trainee, in my case, in my one specialty that I will hope to train in and become a consultant. So just for anybody who's quite recently new to the channel, I know there's a few of you in the time I've been away, my pathway went something like this. I completed a bachelor's degree in cellular and molecular biology at Newcastle University from 2014 to 17. I then completed a graduate entry medicine programme, 4-year medical degree at the University of Warwick, which took me through till 2021. I then completed the foundation programme, what was now known as the specialised foundation programme. It was called the academic foundation programme when I did it from 2021 to 2023, so that brings us up to last year. Alongside that, I did my postgraduate certificate in medical education. And so then the time finally came where I wanted to apply for a job. So in November 2023, I applied for 2 specialty training programs. The first was radiology and the second was neurosurgery, or neurological surgery. And this is the specialty that my CV and the bulk of my academic work has been based around, trying to pursue neurosurgery in the UK. And it's super tough. It's really, really competitive. There's only about 15 or 16 training posts available each year for the country, which I will come back to in a minute. But as part of applying for both of these specialties, radiology and neurosurgery, you take an exam called the MSRA, the Multi-Specialty Recruitment Assessment. This is a test, multiple choice test that's taken online but in a test centre. That's basically a GP exam. The conditions that you would see in general practice, and that's what this exam is validated for, to select GP trainees. It's not validated for anything else, but that doesn't stop specialties using it to recruit and cut down the numbers of people they need to interview. So what then happened is I did the MSRA. I did okay, but not great. And what that meant is I got rejected pre-interview actually from radiology. Because the MSRA for radiology is used as a sort of pre-screening, you have to do well enough before you can get any further in the process. I didn't meet that threshold, so I was out. Still in the game for neurosurgery, not sure whether my score was going to be quite high enough because it uses a combination of my portfolio, which should in theory be quite strong, given that I'm currently working as a research fellow in neurosurgery, plus your MSRA score. Thankfully, I was invited to interview, which was great. Again, I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to make it. They interview about 60 people for 15 or 16 jobs, and I had my interview a couple of weeks ago now. I know that people get a bit cagey about discussing these kinds of things and you don't want to jinx anything. On paper, I feel like it went okay. There were no disasters, but the tricky thing for me is going to be ranking high enough to get offered a job, because by the time you get to interview, you're competing with, say, 60 other very highly qualified people, all of whom are about as good as you are. A lot of them will be better. But the tricky thing comes with the distribution of the jobs. As I said, there's only about 15 or 16 training posts a year, and they are semi-equally distributed around the UK. And only a subset of those are in places where I could geographically, realistically access them. There are, I think, 5 or 6 jobs this year in London, which would be fine. I live quite close to London and commute into London now from where I live. But there are no training numbers, as in standard ST1 training numbers this year in Oxford, Cambridge or Southampton, which are all of the other centres sort of nearby me that usually take neurosurgery trainees that I could realistically go. About the furthest I could go is the Midlands, and there are 2 numbers this year, East and West Midlands. And so there are several possibilities that can come next, right? So I may not be offered a number at all, a training number being a training post. I may be offered a number in a centre that is geographically suitable for me to go to, because you all know, like, I'm married, I live with my wife, she has her own career to think about and is based in this kind of area. I can't easily just pick up sticks and move around the country. But the other option that could happen, and this is the thing that I really hope doesn't happen, is that I could be offered a number, which would be great, but not in a place where I can geographically take it up. So I'd have to reject the number and try again next year, hoping that there are some more jobs around where I am. And this is really hard. This is the reality for most doctors, and I don't think you necessarily appreciate it. I certainly didn't when I was a medical student, how hard this was going to be. Because as much as everyone says that doctors have a lot of job security and, you know, you'll never be out of work, and if you work hard enough you can get what you want, I'm now stuck in a position where I'm having to prepare plans like B through D through F or whatever, which I am doing and I'll talk about in a second. But progressing past this point, getting from being an SHO and an increasingly experienced SHO, so I'm now out of the foundation program, 6 months into my F3, potentially taking an F4, etc. I have a choice to make, basically, where I can keep applying every year for neurosurgery and for radiology as well, which I think I would take if I was offered a number, with a view to subspecialising in neurointerventional radiology. I have to make a choice between how many years I spend kind of bashing my head against this wall trying to get a neurosurgery number, starting training in something else that's perhaps a bit more accessible, and, you know, working up the career ladder towards becoming a consultant. And this is the really difficult choice that so many doctors every year are going to be faced by. There's your main goal, your primary A specialty that you would do if you could do anything, and then perhaps settling for something that's more realistic. And I think, or perhaps settling for something else that you don't really want to do, but due to various pressures, you find yourself needing to do, you know, to stay in stable work and work towards the higher earning potential that comes with being a consultant or a GP. So that's where I am, and since day one I wanted to capture how it is on this channel and be as open and transparent and honest about the experiences, what it's actually like to go through all of these different stages of my career. So what's my plan B, C, D, E, etc.? This is complicated by the fact that for neurosurgery specifically, you are only allowed to have a maximum of 12 months post-foundation experience in neurosurgery. So I didn't have a foundation job in neurosurgery. There were no academic tracks available to me when I took those in my choice deanery that had a neurosurgery job. So I knew that I wanted to take an FY3 to get that SHO experience and prepare me for the interview. But come August, when I finish this year, I cannot do any more clinical neurosurgery outside of a training program. So I have to think of other things to do to get me through each year, as long as I want to keep applying. So if I don't get a number this year in the 2023-24 application cycle, my next opportunity to apply will be November of this year, about 8 months from now, and I would need a job to tide me through until August 2025, when training would in theory begin. But that job cannot be in neurosurgery, neurology, or neuro-ITU, like neurocritical care. They're quite specific on you're not allowed any more experience beyond 12 months. So that puts me in the position where, although I want to keep applying for neurosurgery training, I cannot do any more neurosurgery. So that means working either clinically in another specialty that might be similar or not similar. I could do teaching, for example. You can do full-time clinical teaching role or a full-time clinical research role, or something else, something away from medicine or leadership development, etc. So coming on to the second thing that I've applied for, again, not wanting to jinx anything, but this is how it is and it's important to be upfront. I made it through to interview for the Faculty of Medical Leadership and Management, the Medical Directors Scheme, which is a year-long leadership training program where you are seconded from the NHS essentially to another organisation, such as NHS England, the GMC, There's I think a parliamentary health select committee, all of these different groups that you can work for, but it's non-clinical. So you take a year out basically from clinical work, much more flexi working, remote working, basically working on sort of leadership and quality improvement projects with your host organisation. And that at the moment would be my preferable plan B, as it were, if I were not to get a number, because this year has been really busy. It's a very stressful job. It's great. I absolutely love my job. For the next year coming, what would be my FY4, I want to work less. I want to put some proper time into doing this and growing this brand, because joining YouTube Health and doing all of these other things, it's an area of my life that I'm neglecting at the moment, and I think has a lot more potential than really what I'm doing with it at the moment. And that's simply due to lack of time, because I have my clinical commitments. I work in a busy neurosurgery centre. It's super busy all the time. You're then doing work on top of that, you know, trying to get to theatre and audits and all of these other things, and then I've got my research commitments on top of that, which is almost like having another job. So I'm super busy and can't commit to some parts of my life as much as I would want to. Whatever I choose to do, whether that is this leadership thing that I've applied for or one of the few teaching jobs that I've applied for, I want to work probably not clinically if I don't have to, because I think it would be interesting to do something different and just mean that I'm not exhausted at the end of the day, which I am at the moment. And given the option, I would like to work a bit less, maybe 4 days a week, 80% full time, if that was an option. That's a luxury that I may not have, and what I may end up having to do is work in a specialty as like a trust grade SHO in a specialty that I don't really want to, or that I'm not particularly interested in, pays the rent, keeps the lights on, keeps my studio lights on, and that may have to be how it is. And I think having that secure employment to me, you know, I've got a wife to support, as I said, that's more important to me than having my optimum arrangement. Obviously, I'm working very hard and trying very hard to have something that suits me, but I need a job. I need to be employed. Locum work is super unreliable at the moment, and that is not going to get better anytime soon. Ultimately, what I need is a job. Despite what everyone says, it is becoming harder and harder, doctors, to find these ad hoc year-long jobs, because there are more and more medical students coming through, more and more SHOs that need work, but training posts are not expanding. And so I'm now stuck in that terrifying place where I'm an SHO trying to get into training, but that might not happen anytime soon, and I might be stuck here for a few years if I still want to pursue neurosurgery and radiology, both of which are becoming increasingly competitive. So what comes next? Presenting at a conference in a couple of weeks, presenting some of my simulation research. So my main research area is simulation in neurosurgery and spine, so presenting some of that at a national conference soon. Going to Paris in a couple of weeks to do some video work at a urology conference, which I do from time to time, and then interviews for some teaching jobs coming up, and trying to stay on top of my clinical work through all of that. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Just a quick update. There is more content coming, I do promise, but as ever, I'm really strapped for time. That's something that I'm trying to improve, but my commitments in other areas are actually going up, if anything. Until the end of this job, which will not be until the beginning of August, things are unlikely to substantially improve in that regard. So bear with me, I will do what I can. It probably won't be regular, although I'll do my best. But thank you all again for staying on this journey with me. It's an upsetting and difficult time, and I'm feeling that. I'm honestly nervous and a bit scared as to how things may pan out. But this is how it is. This is what it's like for an SHO on the ground at the moment, and I think it's important that we're open about that we are very worried by this uncertainty, and we don't know what's going to happen. So thank you all. If you've got any questions or you want me to explore anything further in the comments, please let me know, and I'll keep you updated as things change. All right, take care. Bye-bye.